Welcome back to the final part of the Flying Monkey series. Grab your wings and let's go! Elon Musk doesn't currently hold an official role in the administration. And since his very public bromance breakup with Trump, his direct influence appears to have diminished. But the damage done during his time shaping policy conversations, particularly around cryptocurrency, deregulation, and the normalization of online disinformation, won't be repaired quickly. Musk has repeatedly used his platforms to amplify conspiracy theories, undermine democratic institutions, and attack journalists and public officials. That influence matters. When someone with enormous wealth and reach treats governance like a meme war, the consequences ripple far beyond social media. Musk has also publicly insulted Canada, dismissing it as not a real country. That statement reflects not humor or critique, but contempt. Canadians are not required to admire billionaires who benefit from public infrastructure while showing open disdain for democratic nations. Consumers are allowed to choose where their money goes, and many are choosing not to support companies whose leadership thrives on provocation, instability, and division. Musk's problem isn't innovation, it's impulse. Power without restraint. Influence without accountability. Whether or not he currently has an ear of the White House, his legacy in this political era is clear. He helped normalize chaos. And chaos, once normalized, is very hard to undo. In my opinion, while our government is looking at citizenship and immigration policies, we should revoke this man's Canadian citizenship, and we should be boycotting Teslas at all costs. What do you think? Once the pinnacle of impartial justice, the Supreme Court of the United States now faces a crisis of credibility. Decisions in recent years suggest a court increasingly aligned with political priorities rather than legal precedent, undermining public confidence in its independence. Controversial rulings on voting rights, campaign finance, and regulatory authority have raised serious questions about whether the court is prioritizing ideology over impartiality. For millions of Americans, this signals that the highest court in the land may no longer function as a check on executive power. When judicial decisions appear to consistently favor the interest of one administration, the public's faith in democracy erodes. The Supreme Court is supposed to safeguard the rule of law. Today, its impartiality is in doubt. And without the independent judiciary, the balance of power, the cornerstone of American governance, is in jeopardy. This is not a partisan complaint, it's a reality check. When one branch no longer checks another, the system itself begins to unravel. The people deserve better. Justice demands better. Tulsi Gabbard has long been known as a maverick in U.S. politics. Recently, she has publicly questioned NATO's structure and raised critiques about the European Union's role in global policy. Critics argue that some of her statements align with narratives that could weaken U.S. alliances in Europe and embolden adversaries. Whether one agrees with her reasoning or not, these speeches signal a willingness to challenge long-standing multilateral commitments. For an administration already criticized for straining international relationships, this adds another layer of risk. Gabbard's influence comes not from holding office in this administration, but from using her platform to amplify critiques of long-standing alliances. While dissent is vital in a democracy, the timing and framing of these critiques can have real-world geopolitical consequences. If you are still hanging around, then please hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. We do appreciate it so much, the help you give to building our channel. And thank you for watching. I do hope you've watched part 1 and 2 of this series. This is the final chapter. And let's look at some more monkeys. Pete Hoekstra's, or as I like to call him, Little Petey, role in Canada raises an important question. Why does a foreign diplomat spend so much time inflaming domestic divisions instead of strengthening bilateral relations? Hoekstra has repeatedly inserted himself into Canadian public discourse, promoting misleading narratives about Canadian policy, particularly around MAID, Canada's Medical Assistant in Dying framework. These claims suggest that the Canadian government encourages death over care, a characterization that is demonstrably false and deeply disrespectful to Canadians, patients, and medical professionals. MAID is a tightly regulated, legally defined medical process that exists alongside, not instead of, healthcare access. Spreading misinformation about it is not diplomacy. It's propaganda. This is only one point. In past videos, we have talked about his outlash at Canadians for boycotting U.S. products and U.S. travel. And he has lashed out at Canadian government officials during trade talks, and gone as far as threatening Canada with war if we don't bend knee to U.S. demands. He still acts like he doesn't understand why Canadians had turned against the U.S. and blames Canada for the trade war. Rather than engaging constructively with Canadian institutions, Hoekstra's rhetoric mirrors the culture war tactics used elsewhere: exaggerate, provoke, and divide. That approach risks undermining trust between allies and stoking unnecessary fear among Canadians who rely on accurate information to make deeply personal decisions. Diplomats are meant to build bridges. When they instead amplify falsehoods and social wedges, they fail in that responsibility. Canadians don't need lectures from foreign representatives mischaracterizing our laws or values. We need respect. Hoekstra's influence here is limited, not because of restraint, but because Canadians are capable of recognizing when outside voices are speaking in bad faith. The best result to manufacture outrage is clarity, facts, and refusal to be divided. This is a newer name, but the role is familiar. Jeff Landry, currently serving as governor of Louisiana and a former military officer, has been positioned as a political emissary abroad, most notably in relation to discussions involving Greenland. Let's be clear. Greenland is not a bargaining chip. It is not for sale. And it is not a territory waiting to be absorbed by another nation. Any rhetoric suggesting otherwise isn't about national security. It's about signaling power. History shows that when political figures float territorial ambition under the guise of strategic interest. The goal isn't cooperation, it's pressure. Landry's messaging echoes a broader pattern we've already seen. Send ideological allies abroad to normalize provocative ideas, test public reaction, and introduce division where unity already exists. Basically the same as Hoekstra in Canada. That tactic isn't diplomacy, it's influence seeding. Greenland's future belongs to Greenlanders. Full stop. Attempts by foreign officials to reframe sovereignty as negotiable undermine international norms and strain alliances that depend on mutual respect. The response to this kind of posturing doesn't need outrage, it needs clarity. A message to our friends in Greenland and Denmark: ignore the noise, stay united, and remember, strong democracies don't give up their future because someone else decided it was strategic. You might expect the leader of this entire operation to be the king of the jungle. But this isn't a story about strength. It's a story about control. While he occupies the spotlight, the evidence increasingly suggests that real power flows through external institutions, most notably ideological organizations like the Heritage Foundation, while the president serves as an amplifier. He doesn't govern for the people, he governs for himself. His supporters should know this by the number of emails he sends out a week begging for money. His public record shows a consistent pattern. Loyalty is rewarded, dissent is punished, and institutions are bent to protect personal interests rather than public good. Transparency is treated as a threat. Oversight is framed as persecution. Accountability is avoided at all cost. This administration does not operate through policy debate, it operates through pressure. Political pressure, legal pressure, media pressure. The goal isn't consensus, it's submission. Over time, this has created a culture where silence is safer than truth and obedience is valued more than competence. Concerns about fitness, judgment, and consistency are dismissed rather than addressed with openness. Medical transparency, standard for leaders in democratic societies, has been replaced with vague assurances and selective disclosure. That absence of clarity fuels speculation, mistrust, and instability. Not because people are malicious, but because leadership requires accountability. When the accountability disappears, confidence collapses. Compare speeches from his first term to now, and one thing is clear. The tone has hardened, but at the same time, it's weak. The rhetoric has darkened and seems deranged. The grievance has deepened and feels vengeful. This isn't about age, it's about temperament, about impulse, about a worldview that sees power as entitlement and democracy as an obstacle. History shows us that systems don't fall because of one man. They fall when institutions bend, when enablers multiply, and when the public is told to ignore what they can plainly see. This isn't a warning about a single leader. It's a warning about what happens when loyalty replaces law. Secrecy replaces transparency, and fear replaces governance. No flying monkey acts alone. They follow a signal. And the signal starts here. So here we are, from Banff to Gobert, from Hoekstra in Canada to Landry in Greenland, from the courts to the enforcers, the propagandist, and the figurehead at the top. What we see is a system. Each flying monkey serves a signal. They aren't acting randomly. They are part of a chain, and the consequences ripple far beyond Washington. And the signal, it all starts at the top. The White House may feel like a circus, but the stakes are very real. The consequences reach across borders, affect neighbors, and shape the future of democratic norms. So watch, listen, question, and demand transparency. Because no figurehead, no ideology, and no flying monkey, no matter how powerful, should be beyond scrutiny. Welcome to Oz. And remember, it's up to citizens to see the curtain, understand the machinery, and decide how the story ends. Until next time, be aware, ask questions, and stay groovy. Peace and love, you all.